Hey guys, and welcome to a new What If on the channel here. Today we're doing part 1 to What If Naruto looked like Kushina. So, well, yeah, what would happen if, somebody had red hair, violet eyes, same red hair as his mother, same eye colour as his mother, and the same colour skin as his mother, as well as similar voice as his mother did at, somewhat age up until he started puberty, up until the point of they'd start puberty. Well, of course, their voices would change, but up until then, they would have the exact same voice and would have, pretty sure even somewhat Shippuden Naruto still had somewhat a similar body figure to Kushina. So, yeah. And yeah, what had happened? Well, firstly, when Naruto would be born, of course, he looked so much like Kushina that Minato would somewhat ask his wife if she saw that his son was actually his son, if Naruto was actually a boy and not a girl. To which she'd somewhat go, yes, Minato, Naruto is indeed your son, as she'd show him his penis. And yeah, of course, a few seconds later, the masked man would end up having Naruto, and when he'd look down at the baby, even he'd be confused if Naruto was actually a boy or a girl. Because if it was a girl, well, he could just try and get her, say, pregnant down the line. Whereas if it was a boy, he would have to try and rip the fox right out of him, somehow. So yeah. And anyway, that would play, on, as I said, later down the line. Though for now, canon would go the same up to the point of Minato would seal the fox in him. And yeah, so just as he was about to seal the fox, but he'd realize that, or at least he'd realize that as dudes like that, Naruto pretty much is exactly like Kushina. He'd realize that if Naruto looks like Kushina, is obviously Uzumaki genes are, somewhat very much on the foreground. They're very much the dominant genes. But you'd realise that if they are, then he's going to have a gigantic, chakra reserve. So he'd probably be able to handle the entire fox, or at least its power. So think for Ben, he'd realize that he could still make it easier on him by simply slicing the fox in half, not in yin-yang half, but reserves half. So that's what he'd do. He'd split the fox's reserves, actual chakra reserves, not chakra in half, to which the fox would be able to regenerate its actual reserves, so the max amount of chakra one can generate and hold within them would be cut in half, which would still be gigantic. It'd pretty much probably be the same size as his canon Naruto, so his canon, somewhat actual reserves, as, you just have both yin-yang this time around instead. Yeah. Anyway, so something with that, of course, Minato Kushina would still get stabbed. All that would happen from there on, and yeah. Of course, somewhat, time would go by, and once Naruto, or at least, though when Naruto would be about 5 years old, of course, he would somewhat go to heroes, and he would somewhat open up the door, and heroes would look out and go, Naruto, how can I help you? To which Naruto would go, well, the old man, GG, by any chance know any different chocolate control exercises? Oh, you want to know some more chocolate control exercise, do you? Nod. Yeah, well, I've just finally finished, or at least finally managed to do the leaf sticking exercise, and I was wondering if there was more, because as Iruka had said that the larger your reserves, the easier you'd be able to find it. And of course, the larger one's reserves are the harder it is, the more chakra control you need, right? Which is not indeed. Right, I might pretty much find mine pretty much instantly, so I've got pretty big chakra reserves, don't I? So that'd mean I would need a lot more chakra control, right? Isn't it not? And you'd go, indeed, Naruto. And, well, and yeah, though. So that the next chakra control exercise you can try doing is called tree walking, and it's exactly like it sounds, where you can walk up a tree, though it's not just trees, any walls or ceilings you'll be able to cling to. Something with sending chakra to your feet. And then I did go, so that sounds awesome, that pair. Which is a mid sort of smile, and he'd go, indeed. It's somewhat is. And though it is somewhat hard, and what I'd suggest you to do is to, charge out a tree and try and send chakra to your feet. And then, somewhat have a kunai and mark how high you get up to it. Because when you send not enough, you'll somewhat stick to it and would start sliding down, and too much you'll crack the bark, if not fling off of it. And after a bit more explanation of it, someone now would ask if there was, any more after that, which Susan would nod, though he'd state that he would have to come back and, prove that he can do the tree walking to progress onwards. Now to would nod, and he'd though he'd go, I do have another thing, which Susan go, sorry, enough question, well, go ahead. Now to go, well, somewhat, Iruka Sensei also said, somewhat that somewhat, when it comes down to chakra, you can't somewhat or at least somewhat you can't kind of destroy chakra, you can only really somewhat transform it. He's not kind of confused, where Nato's going with this. So doesn't that mean that somewhat it's pretty much impossible, even if the fourth sacrificed his life, somewhat, at least somewhat it's like Iruka somewhat said that, the fool sacrificed his life to kill the fox, but if you can't destroy chakra, then how can you kill something that's meant to be made completely out of chakra? You can't. You have to, I don't know, seal it away in something, right? But that's things if it was already sealed away, which, at least, but because, it's similarly, or at least it's said to have appeared in the middle of a village, then does not mean that it was already kind of sealed away in someone, and the only time in which it could have been sealed away would be when, the first Hokage and some Uchiha had that fight, right? And he was somewhat mentally kind of cast, as Naruto definitely looked like Kushina. And whilst he had both his parents down his somewhat mind, and had, generally been, reading and teaching himself. If the academy wasn't going to do a proper job, he was going to, learn and do it himself. Yeah. Yeah, he was a mid-summer, so he would tell his army to leave and to let no one come in and disturb them. They'd go high and they would leave, he'd go up and he'd shut both his windows. Naruto would somewhat kind of get somewhat uncomfortable as he was then sit back down as he'd sigh as he'd go, well, firstly, the first question. Indeed, the Minato, the fourth Hokage, couldn't kill the fox. It would be impossible for it to die. And so as such, of course, and that's the thing. Unlike the other 8-tailed beasts, there's 8 more. Yes, there are indeed 8 more. And yeah, unlike, as I was saying, the other 8, which could be sealed away in objects, though the higher the tail, the less likely you are to be able to successfully seal away them into an object. Anyway, Dinosaurs, on the other hand, you just can't. It would be impossible. It would break out instantly. And as such, it has to be sewn inside of a person. So it's not to look down. Of course, you could, the sort of people have a momentary flashback to, being called demon or monster or that, and he'd go, in me right? Isn't that I, yeah. Naruto, and you is still inside of you. Why me? Because, for one, somewhat he could see something. Someone knew that you'd protect the village, Naruto, and he wanted you to be seen as a hero. And if you were to or at least to somewhat unzip your jacket, or at least if you to somewhat lift up your top into molten chocolate in your stomach, you'll see the seal on your stomach. Seal? Quack his somewhat head aside, though he would do what he was said, yeah. And yeah, you'd see, obviously the somewhat trigram tetragram seal on his stomach. And yeah, he was meant to explain that was food to it. Naruto would sort of be kind of surprised that was pretty much seemingly holding the fox back, and yeah, there we'd go, and indeed it was sealed inside of someone beforehand, and indeed when you said it would have been roughly sealed within side of some person. And before I even tell you who that person firstly I need to tell you something. What's that? Well, there's a reason why I didn't tell you this, Naruto, and that's because, well, firstly, you're from a clan. I'm from a clan. From a yes, you're from a clan, though they are no longer sort of around. Your clan is dead, and from what I and Rest Konoha knows, Naruto, you're the last of the Uzumaki clan, and yeah, you sort of go wide-eyed, and yeah, I need someone to explain that Uzumakis were pretty much masters, or at least were somewhat wiped out, or at least that Uzumakis had been pretty much about wiped out around during, or at least the kind of what would start the First Shinobi World War. And yeah, and you'd state that would be important slightly, or at least that. And yeah. And that the reason why was because they were somewhat, even though they weren't really somewhat a village as they lived outside of Konoha, even though they weren't technically a kind of hidden village, they were quickly, or at least they were somewhat quickly approaching that, and yeah. And somewhat kind of as such, the 4 of the out of 5 kind of or at least somewhat did somewhat of course decides to sort of wipe them out, and out of 10,000 shinobi, out of 10,000 men and women that went to destroy your clan, Naruto, only about 98 to 99% of them survived. And sadly, though, by the time we arrived, there was pretty much nobody alive. We finished off the survivors, the enemy survivors, and then buried your clansmen. And yeah, that's what kind of kicked off the Third Shinobi World War. Naruto would just nod at that. And yeah, though, you did explain, of course, about Finjutsu and, somewhat why, kind of, somewhat why and that they were pretty much masters somewhat of it, and yeah, that Nomdi came close to understand Finjutsu, somewhat unlike in to the same level as an Uzumaki. And yeah, after I kind of ask him if he could teach them, to which he'd say that he, for right now, he sort of couldn't, as he'd have to have good, sort of handwriting and also good chakra control, to which after would kind of look down, though he would try to tell him that as long as that, it would somewhat, he was going to tell him that, so like in a year's time, he would, test him to see if he had good enough handwriting and chakra control to start learning Finjutsu. Yeah, now to look up. So yeah, so you would, as long as you practice your handwriting and chakra control, then yes, I'll teach you Finjutsu Naruto. And yeah, Naruto would nod. Anyway, getting back to what I was somewhat talking about. Yeah, though. And the reason why I've told you about your clan, even though that is because somewhat Mito Uzumaki was the first nine-tailed Cherokee. And she had at least before you could continue, Naruto's go, she sounds familiar. Of course she would, Naruto. She was none other than the first Hokage's wife. Naruto would go, would be surprised and be sort of surprised for it. Great, so in that way I'm related to the first Hokage. You'd nod, well, like that, and also somewhat the fact that the Uzumakis are cousin clans of the Senju. Cousin clans? Huh? What do you mean by that? Well, it just means that sometime down the line of history, two people, one somewhat the head of the Senju clan had gave birth to, say, two children, and one of them went off to form the Uzumaki clan, your clan, whereas the other continued on, with the Senju. That's what cousin clans means. They are closely related. They're somewhat related, though, and as such, they, some marriage between the clans and all. Yeah, now to it somewhat nod. Wait, hang on. If that, but then wouldn't that also mean that, yes, you're somewhat related to, no, yes, that would also mean you're the cousin of none other than the world's best medic Nin Tsunade Senju. And so yeah, that would just be surprised at that. Of course, he'd know a name as he'd been doing his own, teaching himself in the library about all this stuff. And yeah, he would just nod. And yeah, he was mid somewhat. Yeah, from there, he was mid, continue onwards. And somewhat, though, as time came past, though, about a year or two from your clan's destruction, because Mito had gotten very old, she had requested from, that a new Tenshoku be chosen to bear or at least a new person to bear the burden of being the 9,000 Cherokee. And so, as such, a girl from your clan was chosen. This girl was Kushina Uzumaki, your mother, Naruto. Not to go right at my mum. Yep. And yeah, though the day you wasn't born in Konoha, you was born outside of it. Somehow the mastermind had managed to. So your mum had managed to give birth to you have the fox ripped out of her, as sadly, when a female Jinchuriki is sort of pregnant, the of course chakra goes to the infant child, the developing child, in this case on you. So when she was giving birth to you, the seal had weakened critically. Thus, the fourth Hokage was there to keep the seal somewhat as stable as possible, and somewhat, though before he could retighten the seal, a masked man had appeared, and he had put a kind of explosive tag on what only somewhat, and what was kind of wrapped around you. He'd managed to, of course, save you, but as a consequence, the masked man took my mum and ripped the fox out of her, right? Yes, but your mum wasn't dead. Unlike any other somewhat person who would become an Jinchuriki. So a normal person, say if I became a Jinchuriki, I would die if it was ripped out of me instantly, but an Uzumaki, if they were to have say that at least ripped out of them, then they would carry on living for how long, I don't really know, but yeah, they would continue to live on. It's not an instant death. Doesn't mean that if it was ripped out of you, you could survive. Maybe, as your father was a civilian, not somewhat a civilian from Konoha, so you're 50% Uzumaki, so there's a chance that you might, and there's a chance that you won't. I'm not too sure, and I would rather not, see if it, had to been someone just going, no, dude, rather like being alive. And yeah. Though he would somewhat say, though the reason why, or at least though he'd state, the reason why the, say, fourth sign is good in Finjutsu in the first place, Naruto, is because of your mum, yes. Your mum was friends with the fourth Kage, and so as such, your mum actually taught the fourth Finjutsu. But really? Sort of old man. Indeed, Naruto. Really. And yeah, he'd somewhat, he'd have a kind of smile, a giant smile on his face, so he'd state that his mum was, awesome. And yeah. And from there, about a few weeks to a month or two would pass. And, well, so Naruto would be in the academy and he'd kind of be walking up to Sasuke. Why? Well, because Naruto, obviously someone was 5, because he'd be turning 6 in December or that, whenever his birthday is, which would mean Sasuke and the others would be about 6, or at least a few of them would be 6. And yeah, this would mean the Uchiha massacre. And yeah, though Naruto, of course, knowing himself what it's like to be alone and orphan, and Sasuke now kind of being an orphan, he'd, wanting to kind of, somewhat kind of, at least, try and get maybe Sasuke as a friend, or at least, kind of tell Sasuke that if he, ever wanted to talk about kind of anything or just the loneliness or that, he was there. Though, of course, Sasuke would, kind of spend, he'd, state that, he didn't know, obviously, the pain in that, and yeah. Eventually, Naruto would end up kind of, or at least somewhat snapping, and he'd, slight, or at least kind of feel why, similarly, people go at him, which was like that, that because of, something when he was born, or because he was born, didn't like the fox, attacked people, thought that, thought he was similarly like the fox somehow. And yeah, that he was pretty much hated because of that, and would somewhat storm off. And yeah, though of course sometime later, somewhat though with Shikamaru would go after somewhat the academy, somewhat would, tell his parents that he finally figured out, why people, hated Naruto. They would of course look at one another a bit kind of highly concerned, as they did have this talk with him before, though, with him asking the question of why people hated Naruto. Yeah, they would, in some of his, father would ask, what that was, to which he'd state that, that people just thought he was the fox due to the, someone being born the night the fox attacked. And yeah, his dad would ask how he or at least knew that or that, to which he'd say actually, kind of overheard Naruto and that. And yeah, no, he would, continue on to state that, he'd still pretty much, continue to somewhat, or at least, judge Naruto by, something who'd, sort of, make his own opinion of Naruto. Yeah. Anyway, though, back sort with Naruto, as I said, after the academy, Naruto had somewhat stormed into the Hokage's office, pretty much just in a bad mood. He could see, and he would somewhat be, well, heck, it was, nearing the end of the day anyway, so yeah, Naruto would somewhat, be pretty much, somewhat about Sasuke, and I was just kind of stating, that he was pretty much, yeah, that how, he only tried to, or at least somewhat, let Sasuke seemingly know that, even though that pain was similar, of course, you'd state that, even though, his pain, that pain was different, that it was similar enough that, he did know what it was, somewhat was like to be alone. And yeah, I need to state that, he was only going to, tell him that, if I ever needed to talk to someone about the loneliness or that, he was there, but, and yeah. And yeah, he would get, so mad that an actual red prince aura, what would, appear around Kushina, would appear around him as he just, slam his hands somewhat down the desk, to which they would almost immediately hear the sound of, or at least the sort of sound of cracking. They would look down at the desk and would just see it pretty much fold into itself and would just collapse on the ground. Naruto would just seemingly cast on would really kind of somewhat just almost fly off the rail, and though his image just put a hand on him and would somewhat tell him that it was okay, and would somewhat kind of cuddle him to try and calm him down, as well, yeah, he did want Naruto breaking, I think, more, and yeah, anyway, yeah, though, from there, though, or somewhat after a bit of talking, sort of with one another, with Naruto revealing somewhat why, or at least, somewhat why his dream was to become Hokage, which is that his kind of dream wasn't just to become Hokage, but kind of he had to become Hokage so that he could one day bring true peace to the world, and he'd state that not the type of peace we're currently in, but true peace in where, someone from here could go to maybe Ira, Kumo, or some of the other villages, Sangakure and that, and, be greeted as, a fellow, say, friend, or maybe be greeted by, somewhat your wife or your husband or that. And yeah, to be somewhat that kind of level. And yeah, he's would somewhat kind of, he'd be a bit, he'd of course be somewhat surprised at that, and also he'd, continue that, as well, that he'd, wouldn't want, someone to have, to go through what he, someone that is, had to do, and that. Yeah, he's would someone just nod, and he'd, yeah, he'd tell him that his, dream was a very good one, and that one day he hoped it could indeed truly come true. And Naruto would just state that it'd make you come true. And that he knows that, it'd involve, killing in that. But he was willing to do that for the greater world peace. To bring the world truly to one understanding that everyone has to share this pain. And, yeah. Anyway, though they would hear Oli somewhat knock on the door when it would suddenly open it, and it would kind of be confused, who would be opening the door yet and said, come in. Yeah. To where you'd see someone, his Anbu opening the door to the other Anbu, and you'd realise that the three other Anbu were his three other Anbu. So his, guards coming in with, another desk. They'd, of course, they would move the one that broke in two, put the new one down, and here's when we'd take out the drawers from the old one and slide them into, of course, the new one. And that would help Hiruzen to pick up the papers and all, and the apologise, again, to which Hiruzen would state that it wasn't a problem to, somewhat try and, say, instead of letting the, his anger take control over him, to instead try and use his anger for more, somewhat, something else. And, and so from there, time would pass as he would, train himself into the ground and control, and indeed, after the so much year now, Hiruzen would start teaching Naruto how to, somewhat about Funjutsu and that, and eventually Naruto would end up somewhat at the age 12, somewhat as he wouldn't try and graduate early, knowing that if he did, he could potentially be put on a team that, didn't like him, and, someone completely ignored him and that. And somewhat as well as that, of course, you'd, somewhat know about, be it by reading or that, about the somewhat Genin having, or at least, doing their own sort of test. And so we would end up running into the Hokage somewhat office. The day of the Genin exam, saying that he passed, as it'd be after the academy, and he'd thanks to all somewhat mean to sealing the actual, well, not the entire Fox into him, but sort of totally splitting the Fox's reserves sort of in half. That, of course, it meant that the Fox, or at least somewhat, the Fox's chakra that mixed with Naruto was kind of stable, somewhat chakra, as, it wasn't, heavily in just, somewhat physical energy. It was both physical and mental energy. It was more stable, thus meant it had less of an impact on Naruto's own reserves, and thus meant that after a fair amount of chakra control training, he could do the normal clone jutsu. And he's made somewhat to smile, and he'd, congratulate somewhat Naruto on passing. And though he'd ask him if he was somewhat now ready for somewhat, or at least somewhat his Funjutsu test. Because this Funjutsu test pretty much would mean that he would somewhat be able to use Funjutsu anywhere and pretty much anytime something like he could make anything. So without having to be, supervised. Now that he could pretty much is a certificate that he knew somewhat what he was doing, and that that he could make, somewhat he wasn't, going to, or at least somewhat he wasn't going to try, and make something without, getting it potentially analysed first to make sure it, wasn't going to go boom. And if he was going to test it, he was going to test it in a, safe enough area that there'd be, no people around, so there'd be no real destruction of, property or that. And, of course, a few hours later, he'd end up passing. And, the next day, of course, he'd end up So that would go slightly similarly, though the only thing that would be different would be that he, wouldn't wear, he wouldn't put face paint and that sort of on. And yeah. And besides something like that, it goes like similarly, Konohamaru and that, so you'd end up teaching Konohamaru how to do the transformation jutsu. And the day after that, of course, would be somewhat in the academy, kind of waiting to find out, what team he'd be on. He'd kind of figured he'd probably be teamed up with Sakura, as well, he was the somewhat the rookie of the year, as he somewhat had been for quite some time now, and that anytime, Sasuke would try and, somewhat, seemingly beat him, he was somewhat smarter than kind of Sakura, as, Sakura's book smart, whilst Naruto was generally smart. And the difference in book smart and natural intelligence, well, not really natural intelligence, but just being smart in general, is that somewhat Sakura pretty much, she could somewhat, if she's explaining, say, something she wrote in the book, she'd explain it like the book itself explained it to her. She pretty much would have a book, or at least the book that she read in her mind, and she'd read pretty much from the sentence that the, book had. While somewhat Naruto could do that as well, but he could also explain it in his own way. Yeah. Pretty much meant that he could, the somewhat difference that between book smart and just normal intelligence. And anyway though, though somewhat, or at least though Iruka would somewhat state, or at least Team 7 would consist of Sakura, Haruno, Sasuke Uchiha, and Naruto Uzumaki. Of course, when Sakura, or at least heard, Sasuke would be on a, they'd be on a team together, of course, you'd cheer. When someone, Naruto was brought up, she'd somewhat kind of like slightly, down. Though Naruto would go, wait, what? Why am I on the team, with Sasuke? Like, shouldn't I be, shouldn't mean Sakura would be, on the team of the dead last, not, with Sasuke. Sasuke is the, second best, male shinobi of the year. Iruka could just state that, Iruka could just say that if he didn't like it, he could go and, try and tell the third Hokage. And Naruto just somewhat like grumble, though to him it didn't quite make sense. And of course, somewhat with his own, the junior would have a similar conversation on why on earth the rookie of the year and the second best male shinobi of the year were on the same team. Though Hizumi would just end up grumbling out somewhat pretty much kind of clan politics and all that, which would generally shut up for most of them, and anyway though, from of course somewhat there, 4 hours later, so an hour break, lunch, and then Kakashi would come 3 hours later to pick his team up. And because though you'd somewhat kind of noticed the way Kakashi somewhat seemed to be kind of seemingly almost somewhat surprised at the way he seemed to somewhat look all that, which Naruto would realise that if he seemed somewhat surprised, he knew his mum, so so somewhat from there, of course, Kakashi would tell him to, meet him on the roof, so Sasuke and Sakura, or at least Sasuke would, run past Sakura, try and, have Sasuke wait for her, but she'd end up running after him. Naruto would walk up the side of the building, and go street walking and that. Kakashi would hear somewhat the sound of kind of, somewhat a fence, or at least, someone can't, climbing the fence like that, so he'd sort of look up to see kind of Naruto seemingly jumping over the fence, to which, even though Naruto would be, in his somewhat kind of, orange jumpsuit. That though, due to the somewhat canny of just looking, exactly like his mother, and all Kakashi would, mum would somewhat kind of say Kushina, which would just confirm to Naruto that Kakashi did know his mum. To what degree, he wasn't sure, but he kind of did want to somewhat know, as only really hearing somewhat about his mum from Tucci, and he was in. Well, yeah, he wanted to know more about his mum from different people. So if his sensei knew about his mum, like to know what he knew about her. Yeah. Afterwards, because someone would land and would go, so you know about my mum, huh? Kakashi would sort of blink and he'd go, you know? He'd somewhat shake his head and getting the, image of Kushina, similarly, or at least somewhat a. Yeah, and he would somewhat kind of nod as he'd state that he somewhat did, and yeah, they'd talk for, a bit. And yeah, though somewhat from there, Sasuke and Sakura would sort of arrive, and their interjections would go roughly the same, though Naruto would state that sort of his sort of light, which he'd kind of have to think, as he would have, a lot of different likes, but he didn't want to, at least reveal all his likes now. And yeah, after all, Kakashi gave them hardly anything, or at least to, Sasuke and Sakura, Kakashi gave them nothing about him. To Naruto, Kakashi pretty much gave him that he was a kind of somewhat private person that didn't really like revealing stuff about himself, seemingly, and to people who he may not exactly get to know all that long. Yeah, Naruto someone would go that he somewhat liked to somewhat kind of train, and that his hobby was to somewhat kind of mess around with somewhat chakra and all that, to experiment in that. And that his somewhat dislike was just his voice, as he sounded again like Kushina. He hadn't hit puberty yet, so he still somewhat sounded like his mum, a female. And yeah, Kakashi could understand that as someone who'd known Naruto, somewhat a male, but just sounded and somewhat kind of looked like a female, as he did have his mother's body figure, after all. And yeah, though the only thing different between him and Kushina, besides Naruto having somewhat shorter hair, would be somewhat his eye colour. Well, not his eye colour. 6 whisker marks on his cheeks, 3 on each cheek, and him being a boy. Otherwise, he'd pretty much get rid of those 3 things, or change those 3 things, and he'd be pretty much a carbon copy of Kushina. And yeah. Well, in the looks and that department, but yeah. Anyway. And yeah, though he'd of course state that, somewhat his goal was to become, or at least somewhat his goal, and a one piece somewhat of his somewhat dream was to become Hokage. Kakashi would kind of somewhat, he'd somewhat be curious what the other piece is to his dream or goal was. Yeah, he'd continue on saying that, it was, state that it was good, they're all different. And, he'd refer to similarly, or at least them, mainly just Sasuke and Sakura, about the fact that they weren't truly, Genin yet, and, about a second test. To which they'd be shocked, though Naruto wouldn't be, and, yeah. Yeah, Kakashi would sort of look at his, both to see something Naruto, and Naruto would just kind of shrug, stating that he kind of already sort of knew that. That it was kind of somewhat obvious anyway, to which Sakura would state that was it kind of, obvious, to which Naruto would point out that the academy only really taught them, or at least somewhat test was only, somewhat, you kind of, somewhat, a test on paper, and then to see if they could do free jutsu, and, if they could throw kunai at a stationary object. Kunai and shokunai, a stationary object that wasn't a somewhat test. That wasn't really seen if we were a shinobi, that was just seen if we had the ability to potentially become shinobi. As senseis which could be somewhat senseis which would be specialized in a type of field of somewhat a shinobi, be that tracking, like I believe Team 8 is, to which Kakashi would know that Team 8 is indeed more specialized in tracking. And so that somewhat, that Team 7 was probably more of a frontline fighter concerning him and Sasuke. And so that their test would probably evolve something around having to potentially fight or something like that. And Kakashi would just be somewhat, again, taken back at how actual, his deductive skills were. And anyway, though, from there, Kakashi would, after a bit more talking, he dismissed them. And of course, the next day, somewhat, of course, somewhat once, Kakashi would arrive, Kakashi would sort of noticed that, of course, Sasuke and Sakura clearly looked hungry, but Naruto didn't. And he'd ask Naruto that, to which Sakura would go, see, you're gonna get in trouble, Naruto. And Naruto would just somewhat sigh, and he'd look at Kakashi and he'd go, you never somewhat ordered us, Sensei, to not eat breakfast. You simply advised us to not eat breakfast. After all, if I remember correctly, your wording was that somewhat that you suggested us to not eat breakfast if we didn't want to puke. Concerning the fact you were 3 hours late yesterday, I kind of figured you'd be that again today. So what's, nothing. So, someone to eat, breakfast, and then 3 hours later, sure, I'm going to be somewhat a bit hungry, but I'm not going to be as hungry as they are, and, I'm not really going to puke now, am I? So it's Kakashi would nod, and that would also state that, also, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, or one of the most important. And, someone, from there, would, tell that, he would, show them 2 powers and that, and, that they would have to come at him with the intent to kill, to which Sakura would state that it was kind of dangerous, and that, to which Naruto would somewhat point out that he was a Genin, to which she go, still we could hurt him, to which Naruto would just go and state that he was a Genin. They were Genin. They were highly unlikely going to even touch him. And to which it's not tough, though. Though a few seconds later, Kakashi would somewhat started, to which they would all disappear. Naruto would end up going to Sasuke, to which started, or at least state, to Sasuke that they would have to work as a team, to which Sasuke would say that, he wasn't going to work with him, to which Naruto would just sigh and would go, Sasuke, use your brain for once and think, when has ever can I let just somewhat 2 people become a team? Think for once in your life. Sasuke would send him a glare, but he would do so, and after a bit he'd, realize, he'd somewhat kind of grudgingly realize that, sort Jonin and Anbu may, and, Chulin did leave the village as, a 3-man team, which their team would technically be with 2 Genin, but he'd realize that Naruto was kind of right. Genin team, on the other hand, always had 3 Genin and 1 Jonin. And Naruto would state that this was a test of teamwork, that their frontline team, or at least their somewhat team specialty, would be frontline fighting, and as such, their greatest thing would be their teamwork. And it's like, you can hate me all what you like, but as long as I'm in a mission, you can put that aside and work together with me and Sakura. I could care less if you want to kill your brother or that. But as long as you don't let that affect, so as long as you don't let that fact somewhat us in missions, then so be it. Yeah. You just grunt and he'd stay and you just look at him and somewhat kind of ask him if, somewhat, because he, figured it out. So if he somewhat had plans which not to state that, they would, or at least somewhat at the very least, they'd state, firstly, it'd be better if they, or at least somewhat attacked him, somewhat, kind of, somewhat, or at least, somewhat, if they went in and attacked him, first by themselves to get a idea of his strength and that, and potentially what he could do, as Naruto would state that he'd done a bit of looking up on his, on their sensei, and he'd state that Kakashi is somewhat known as the copycat ninja, or the somewhat shinobi of 1,000 jutsu, which Sasuke would just, promptly, somewhat, and would somewhat go wide-eyed, 1,000? You're joking, right, Naruto? Naruto just I wish. I was surprised as well. And yeah. Those Sasuke would state that he would fight, Kakashi first, and yeah. And somewhat he would. And yeah, of course, now once Kakashi was finished, fighting Sasuke, Naruto would help Sasuke somewhat up and out of the ground, and from there Naruto would fight against Kakashi, and after a while, somewhat go away to go get Sakura, to which he'd somewhat say that she wasn't going to work with them, or at least somewhat him, to which Naruto would just sigh and would somewhat kind of call out Sasuke, to which he would somewhat appear. And Sakura would kind of be somewhat confused, and Sasuke would point out what Naruto did, that they would have to work as a team to pass, to which he'd somewhat nod and would ask, him for a plan, to which Sasuke would state that, would look to Naruto. And yeah, from there they would somewhat kind of form a plan and would put it into action, to which Kakashi saying that they were now working as a team. And as such, of course, he would end up passing them, stating that even though they didn't get the powers, that due to the fact they actually worked as a team, he would pass them. Somewhat very much enforcing, it's like in both Sasuke and Sakura's mind that, that it was indeed, teamwork. And yeah, of course, Kakashi would also, reveal, or at least the stone, something that meant, and also state that, somewhat what a friend once told him, that those that abandon a mission are scum, but those that abandon their teammates are worse than scum. And yeah, somewhat from there, you'd go and of course tell, here's an his team passed, and apparently also later, after the team somewhat dispersed, a Anbu would somewhat come, or at least would somewhat, would kind of appear, somewhat in front of Naruto, or at least beside him, if not knock on his door, depending on where he was, and would somewhat tell him that the final Kage would like to see him. Naruto would be somewhat confused, though he would nod. And yeah, he was somewhat trying to think of, a actual kind of shinobi outfit as, somewhat, as much as he'd somewhat like orange, and as much as he loved orange, it could, was somewhat, the orange jumpsuit was indeed some baggy in that, and yeah. So from there, he would somewhat arrive to the, final Kage's office, to which he would greet him, and that's why I'm going to end it here, guys. So if you have enjoyed this part, do tell me in the comments down below, and of course, if you do want part 2, do say, guys. And yeah, I'll try and get a part 4 of What If Naruto Was a Succubus, but I may just abandon that. If I do, I'll let you guys know that, somewhat in the community tab, that I've abandoned just that somewhat what if, and may redo it in maybe a few months or that, if you want it. Anyway, as I said, hope you guys have a good day. Well, hope you guys somewhat have enjoyed this, and yeah, hope you guys and girls have a good day or night, depending on wherever you are and whenever you watch this, and good bye.